for joining me today. It's Brian Gubernick, and welcome to the No Days Off podcast, where we believe that every single day represents an opportunity to get better. Let's get into today's topic. Today, I'm going to be discussing wealth, financial wealth, but specifically what you could or should be reading, listening to, and doing to increase your wealth. See, at No Days Off, I challenge our audience to take a minute, take 5 minutes, take 10 minutes, take whatever it is every single day and aim to get better at something. Aim to get better at something. So that may mean that you're reading or listening or attending or just watching or doing something that's going to help you improve. And I talk around financial wealth quite a bit, so I thought it'd be a good exercise today to share with you the books and podcasts that have made a substantial difference for me in my life, my wealth building career, that may be things for you to listen to or read, or at least spark some sort of thought for you to go pick up a specific book or listen to something. So here are the books that I've read over time in no exact order, all very different books, yet covering wealth, but all read from my perspective at very different lenses, very different points in my life, and so different lenses I was reading it. The first book, The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas Stanley, The Millionaire Next Door. This was actually one of the first money books I read, believe it or not, before Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And when I read the book, it changed my mentality around saving, living a bit more frugally, but strategically frugally. And not if that's a term, I'm not sure if that's a term, but it was a term to me, right? Like how to conserve, how to save so that you can reinvest those funds and live your future like others simply don't have the ability to do. So The Millionaire Next Door. The next one for me was in fact Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I don't need to tell you all about that book. Most of us have heard of it, and I think nearly all of us would have it on our short list of wealth books that make a huge difference. The next book for me, The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. This is actually a rather recent read for me, past couple of years or so, past few years. And this book really helped educate me and make me more aware around the power of index funds, more specifically Vanguard funds, how they're low cost and how they outperform 90% plus all investments in the stock market. Changed my financial strategy as it pertained to the stock market, and I think a phenomenal read. Next book I'll list, Tax-Free Wealth by our buddy Tom Wheelwright. I'm a huge fan of Tom. I work with him personally. His book, Tax-Free Wealth, that specific book, he has other books out, but that book really changed my thoughts, my approach to the number one expense I have, and I'm sure many of you have, which are taxes. And so Tom, I felt, almost empowered me to look at taxes from a different perspective, challenged me to take a different approach, ask better questions, and ultimately save more in taxes. From a wealth building perspective, saving in taxes creates more liquid, more cash to which I can go then reinvest and create even more wealth. The last book I'd list here, is The Almanac of Naval Ravikant. The Almanac of Naval Ravikant, probably my favorite book over the past year. It's written by a gentleman named Eric Jorgensen about this gentleman named Naval. And Naval, there are so many life lessons in this book, but a lot of conversation in the book is around wealth creation. And again, it's one of my favorite books. There's so much to learn. I've probably been through it 6 or 7 times in the past year alone. Now, things I'm listening to that have changed my perspective or improved my wealth game. Really 2 podcasts that I think stand out above all others. The first one is the Bigger Pockets podcast. See, I invest pretty heavily in real estate, as many of my listeners I know do as well. Bigger Pockets, while the vast majority of the episodes don't actually apply to me, and I may not use the specific information I get out of those episodes in my personal world, almost always When I'm listening to a Bigger Pockets episode, it makes me think about something. It makes me think about something different, something to tweak, something to change, something to investigate, things I could be doing differently in my real estate investment game. So I love the Bigger Pockets podcast just because of the fact that it gets me thinking. And then every now and again, there's a specific strategy or tactic shared that I, in fact, want to go and implement. The second podcast I listen to every single episode that comes out, and it goes back to my buddy Tom Wheelwright, his Wealth Ability podcast is fantastic. I think more about taxes. I think more about wealth building. He does a tremendous amount of interview and education and all sorts of things that get me thinking. The last thing that I would consider on your wealth building journey, if it's your intent to up your wealth game every single day by a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes of activity, might sound cliche, might sound corny, but be selective around who you're spending your time with. And for me, that's made a massive difference. In other words, by me spending time with individuals that are doing things at a higher level than me in the wealth building game, it prompts me to think differently. It prompts me into action. It makes me ask questions and understand what they're doing to see if it's something I could be doing in my world, right? So who you hang out with, it matters. So there's 5 core books for me. There's a couple podcasts, and there is purposeful activity around who I'm hanging out with, who I'm spending time with. All that being said, in your world, on your wealth building journey, what could you do today? What could you read? What could you listen to? And who could you hang out with today that would change the trajectory of your wealth and your wealth building? That's the focusing question. That's all we have for today, the No Days Off podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, every single day brings a new opportunity to get better. So let's get after it. Thank you.